Alrighty, so that's not supposed to be there, but you know what? It's all good because we are still here. I am behind this amazing background screen here, and once I hide it, you'll see my face. My name is Rosendo from MLH. Clearly, it is still early in the morning for me, but you know what? It's all good because we are here and we are going to be doing some amazing learning at this workshop. So let me know in the chat how hyped you are to learn more about DeSo blockchain development. Yep, sorry that the app is a little bit twitchy. It looks like we have some latency issues here, but I think we're gonna be all good. Yeah, like basically what we're gonna be doing today is we're gonna be setting up an amazing application experience using DeSo platform. We have Ty Fischer with us. He is a blockchain engineer at DeSo. I've had the opportunity to work with him on a couple of different occasions now, and I can tell you he is quite the expert at what he does. But please, don't take my word for it. Feel free to experience it yourself. Yes, exactly. We will be setting up something on the blockchain. It's going to be great. We're going to be using JavaScript React today. So if you have the chance to get npm downloaded onto your machine, that's going to give you a little bit of a leg up here. In addition to setting up a Diamond app account, that's also going to be something that'll basically help with any of the I guess administrative side of things when it comes to building the application. But outside of that, I think everything is going to be covered in the actual material itself. So yes, it is beginner friendly. All y'all are going to have the opportunity to really get your feet wet as far as using the DeSo API endpoints and getting an application of your own. So definitely stick around. This is for all levels, no matter how I guess of a new person you are to software engineering or to development or programming, or no matter how experienced you are, I think everyone can take something of value from this session. So feel free to experience it for yourself. I think I've said enough at this point. Without any further ado, I do want to go ahead and introduce Ty Fisher and bring him onto the screen. How's it going, Ty?
Going good. Thanks
All
for
right, it's
the
all you for me.
introduction. All
Yeah,
righty.
no worries.
All righty. So let's see. I gotta get my screen sharing here for you guys. Can you guys see my screen okay? Hey guys. All right. I think we're good to go on the screen. Let me know if it's too big or too small, and I'll see if I can change that. All right. Awesome. So to get things started, I know that there was the template link that I gave Rosendo a while ago, but Rosendo, could you share the GitHub link on the banner that I sent in our private chat? Alrighty. So if everybody can see this link right here, the social app starter pack, this is basically a little more feature heavy than just the bare bones one that I may have provided Rosendo before. I want to show you guys a lot of functionality, so I wanted to basically come a little pre-prepared with what I'll be demonstrating, but we'll be sure to do lots of our own coding and play around and yeah, should have a good time. So if you guys are trying to follow along, what you need to do is you need to first open up a terminal. Let's see if I can zoom in again for you. Yeah, that should be good. And then in your terminal of choice, what you do is you call git clone, assuming you have git downloaded on your machine. And then you copy in that link like this, and you hit enter. Oh, so I already have that directory in this folder, so I'm just going to make a temporary one so I don't have that naming conflict. By making a directory, and we'll just call that temp. And then we can execute that command from before, the git clone, which will download the social app starter pack. Let's see. I'm seeing some comments saying zoom in a bit. I did zoom in. Do you guys want me to zoom in one more time? Tell you what, I'll just zoom in one more time and that should be good for everybody. Alrighty. So now that we called git clone on the repository, we should, if you type in ls or whatever command line command to see what folders exist in your project, you should see one called social app starter pack. To get things started, what we need to do is type in cd and then type in the social app starter pack. I used autocomplete, so I typed in S and then I hit tab and it pre-populated social app starter pack. And once we type in that command, we can hit enter. And then if we list the contents again, you should see that we should have an app structure with our source folder, our public, our git ignore, package JSON, and some other configuration files. All right, so next step would be to call npmi. And what this does is it basically downloads all of our third-party software that we make use of in our application. And this can take, about a minute, maybe less, maybe more. Just depends on how many packages you have in your application that you're using. Yeah, I can repaste that link for you here. Actually, I don't know if I can comment in the normal comment section. Okay, yeah, thank you. Alrighty, so looks like everything's downloaded, and now that means we can basically run our application locally. And to do that, we can run npm run start. Reduce the size of the side pane. Sure, there you guys go. And if we did everything right here, we should have a new tab opening up on localhost 3000. Taking a little bit of time to load here, but that's all right. And let's see. Are you guys able to see my screen when I switch monitors like this? Actually, instead of that, I'm just going to move this up here. Okay, you guys were able to see it. All right, we're going to go with that then. So what you should be seeing is basically, let me refresh here. You guys aren't supposed to see all those details yet. You should basically just see a bar with a login button. Now, I think the best way to kind of illustrate what's going on here is I'm going to show you the functionality first, and then we're going to break that down so you guys know what's going on underneath the hood. So when we click this login button, we are prompted by this cool pop-up, and this is a DeSo identity service, which we're calling from identity.deso.org. And basically what this does is it allows us to begin a logged in session on the DeSo blockchain. And if you don't have an account, it should allow you to be able to like sign up with Google or sign up with like your key basically. And if you haven't already gone to diamondapp.com to create an account and get free DeSo, I would recommend doing so. The reason for this is if you want to write anything to the blockchain, you basically need a little bit of DeSo to submit a transaction. And then just to show you what happens when we click on this, it will update the application to show us like the main page. So after we logged in, we can kind of see my profile card and then the ability to create a post. And then we can also see all of my posts that I actually post on like the DeSo blockchain, where I basically have statuses updating the community about certain things, or we can see our hot feed. So basically, we'll get to that a little bit more later. But now what I want to do is focus on the login functionality. And then I'll see if there's any questions here. Okay, more zooming in. All right, I'll zoom in on this one also. Sorry, guys. Using a slightly bigger monitor. And I think the resolution's getting shifted a little bit. So yeah, and I'm seeing links to the diamondapp.com in the chat. If you guys go there, it should take less than like 2 minutes to sign up. It's completely free. It gives you free DeSo, and it allows you to do a bunch of transactions on the chain. I think like $1 worth of DeSo will last you like, oh man, I don't know, probably more than 1,000 transactions. So you really get a lot of mileage out of it. Alrighty, so hopping into the code, we're going to head over to the header here. And basically, this is all of the source code that we saw to implement it. But just so that you guys can have a really concise understanding, I'm going to re-implement this code in a different file. Alrighty, and then I will be referencing the other file just to like grab my imports and like, you know, the other boilerplate here and there. And then if you guys aren't familiar with React, basically you get to create a functional component that allows for both JavaScript logic and HTML to be inserted together. And the way you could go about writing one of these functions is you just need to type in export const header2 equal to an arrow function. And then at the very bottom, you generally want to return like some kind of HTML element. And then what we can do is basically just type in test here. And if we open up a new file, or if we open up the main page file, let me see here where this is implemented. Yep, so if we go to app.tsx and we change this header right here to header2, and then we import it. So what I did to begin the importing is I hit Control dot on Visual Studio Code. I'm not sure how other text editors handle it, but this is how you do it in VS Code. So, and what happens is when we click that little button right there, you can see that we're just importing our header from the section's identity header2. So I'm going to actually send this code over just to save you guys some time if you're manually typing this out. So Rosendo, I sent you the import from the chat, and I'm going to take a second to look at comments here. Hang on, I got to move my wonderful cat here who's trying to knock over my monitor. Let's see, questions here. So do you need DeSo every time you write code into Diamond? For writing code, code is absolutely free. But if you want to write things to the blockchain, such as creating a post, sending a message, liking a comment, tipping somebody, those all cost a very, very small fractional amount of money. So like normally on Ethereum, like right now, people are pretty used to paying like anywhere from a couple dollars to $50 for a transaction based off of how much gas is required at the time. But with DeSo, usually transactions cost like 0.00001 of a dollar, if not less. So you basically don't really need to worry about your DeSo account running out for fueling transactions. And yes, the Diamond app is built on the platform. For creating the new app, we would require it, right? I'm not 100% sure what you mean by that. Alrighty. So anyways, now that we added our header, let's go ahead and verify that basically our header that says, basically it says test. So, got to re-render the page, hopefully. Okay, we got our header here. Should say test. Might just need to refresh the application. Maybe not. All right, I'm going to restart my server. My React code is being problematic right now. Let's see. Let me verify I'm on the right local host. All right. Well, I'm going to really try to break my code here just to see what's going on. So if I do that, that should absolutely break my code, give me an error, which, I believe I know what the issue is. I've been serving the wrong application. If you recall, I created that temp folder before. So I just needed to navigate my terminal to that location also. You guys don't have to worry about it on your end. That was more so an issue on mine. And we should get a failure here when it builds because we did this. So I'm just going to delete that. Okay, we got our header 2. Okay, looks like that issue is still showing up here. Very interesting. Deal in File Explorer. All right, we'll get to the bottom of this in a second here. All right. All right, if you guys just bear with me for 1 second here, I think I know what the issue is. Also, apologies for the giant sidebar. I know some people aren't really a fan of that. I'm zoomed in right now, so it's showing up way bigger than it normally would. Alrighty. So that took longer than it probably should have, but that's okay. If we go here, refresh, you'll now see that our header component is saying test instead of displaying the login button. 1 second here. All right, just going to look at the chat. Is there a difference between npm start and npm run start? npm run start checks to see if the dependency is downloaded locally in your application, and npm start just runs it on a global level. So basically, it checks to see if npm is installed in different locations. I just have a habit of calling it locally, but if it works the other way, it should be fine. They're both calling the same command if they're both installed. love a good live debug, don't we all? Don't we all? Alrighty. So now what we can do is we can begin implementing. Hang on, my pet's being annoying right now. Come on, buddy. Thank you. I'm personally just going to open up a second terminal here to view our header 1 and then hop over to our header 2. And what we're going to want to do to get things started is, if you didn't already import the code from the header, you'll want to bring that over to your page. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually import the DeSo object. And to do that, we call const DeSo, which is the variable name, and we're going to implement a new DeSo object. And this DeSo object is basically an abstraction layer above a bunch of HTTP calls and also some cryptography that's handled through an iframe. So instead of you guys having to worry about implementing those details, you guys just need to use the library. So let's see here. Alrighty. So in our application, we're using something called Recoil. If you guys are not familiar with state management, Recoil is basically an implementation to state management, which allows you to access data in different components. So by typing this, this will give us access to setting our public key and also getting our public key. And this is basically just boilerplate for right now, but what we're going to do inside of our header is we're going to create 2 buttons. So first, we're going to create one button for logging in, and that will, let's see here, a button. That will take a click event. And in this click event, we're going to pass in, okay, what is the use of recoil state? Sure. Yeah, so recoil is basically a state management library that allows you to share variables between different components in your React application. So it basically really simplifies not needing to pass down your data as a prop over and over again. Because if you have a component structure where you have a parent component with a child component with another child component, and you want to share data that's in that very bottom component with the very top one, you would basically need to pass that data all the way down through each component. So instead of needing to do that, which is a huge hassle, you can use something like recoil state, which will allow you to instantly grab it anywhere in your application. So we should be using props eventually if anybody cares for it, but recoil state makes a lot of sense when you're using the same data in multiple places. So getting back to the button, we can create an async function in here in the click event. And let's see. What we're going to do is to open up the log to log in. All we need to do is called await DeSo identity at login. And then the compiler is complaining right now because we actually need to include another attribute right here called button text. And in button text, we can just type in login. You can use the context API. I just like Recoil state because I don't need to worry about any boilerplate. But like any kind of state management implementation you want to use, you totally can. Instead of public key, what would happen if we use private key? You guys would be able to log into my account probably, and I don't know. I probably don't want to do that. Alrighty. So now that we made these changes, I'm just going to show you what happens when we call the single function. Yeah, I can zoom in one more time. Or actually, let me see if I can just increase text size. All right, we'll get really zoomed in here for you guys. How's that? Goobrick. All right. Anyways, now that we created this click event, if we head back over, you should see that we have a nice, very basic purple login button, the Barney button, if you will. And if you click it, it opens the prompt just like that. And this logic is all handled by this identity.deso.org. So really, when we call login, all we have to do is like basically call the one line and then get the response from it. So I went to click the login, but because we're not doing anything, we basically like it's being stored in local storage, your logged in user credentials, but we don't really have that value in our application yet. So the next part would be to basically get the logged in user, and to do that, or the logged in user key. Let's see. We make a variable called a logged in user key, and then we say deso.identity.get user key, like so. And then what we get to do here is we can set our public key. And then we're going to cast it as a string because sometimes if someone doesn't log in, the value would be passed back as null, as you can see kind of in this little pop-up over here. So we're basically just saying right here, logged in user key is actually a string, like we know for a fact. I guess another option would be to verify that, let's see, that logged in user key exists. And this basically tells the compiler that, hey, if it was null, this if statement check would have failed. So we know for a fact that when we get to this point, this value would be a string. Alrighty. So there's really nothing to show on the UI. This is basically just setting up our data. But what we can do now is we can set up our log out button. Let's see. So we're going to need our add our click event again, async function, and then breaking my code a little bit here, it looks like. Well, I need to add a closing tag, so that would make sense. Maybe one other thing. All right, bear with me here for a second. Alrighty, so we're setting up our logout functionality. And if you look to my right side, you'll see that basically logging out is as simple as the logging in. So we just need to call DeSo.identity.logout, and we pass in our public key that we had. So if you recall, we stored our public key in the use recoil state right here. And in this array here, this is what the value of the key is whenever we need to read it. And the set public key is what we call when we want to set it. All right, so we can take this public key, and then when we want to log out, we can say, hey, we're going to log out with this public key over here. And then what we need to do next is just add some button text, and we can say that it is equal to log out. All right, let's see. Going to take a second to look at the chat. Instead of localhost, can we directly use a custom address IP or any website? Yeah, you can use any IP that you want to. You basically, if you want to do it locally, I think there's a flag that you can call in the command line when you're serving your application. So it'd be npm run and then dash dash, like some flag name, and then whatever localhost IP you want to run it on. And then if you wanted to deploy this to a website to use, you can use something like Nullify, or you can use Heroku. And all you need to do is pass in this application, and it should automatically build it for you. And then it will just deploy it somewhere. Alrighty, so let me just check the time really quick to see how we're doing. I think this event goes until 10 o'clock. So I'm probably going to start typing a little bit faster here just so that we can get moving. But if we look over here, we can see we have our login button, and that works fine and dandy. And now if we hit the log out button, we logged ourselves out. Now we don't have anything basically clearing the page yet, but we can most certainly get to that. Alrighty, so I'm going to sneak in this line of code over here just to kind of show you the value when we do log in. So I'm going to refresh the application, and you'll notice that there is no value here. And then, hang on, I need to add one more thing to our state here. Okay. So I'm setting the public key to update our recoil state to be like, hey, we called log out. It didn't fail or anything. So like for our application, let it know that we're logged out. Oh yeah, I'm Central Time. Sorry, everybody. So we logged in, and then you can see that that line of code to display our public key is right here. And now when we log out, it should clear everything also, just like that. And yeah, so now we have logging in and logging out. We could do the styling, but that's not really the point of this. So I am going to go back to our app page, and I am just going to enable our header one again, just to kind of give us a little bit of style, a little bit of flair. And once we do that, the page should look like this. You don't see both buttons, but when you click this, it switches to the log out button, and then your user stuff is shown right here. All right, now we can focus on the profile card. And let me look at these comments really quick. Okay, cool. So the next piece that we can check out here is our profile card. And let me just close this down. Let me open up this. So I'm going to create another file, and I'm going to call it profilecard2.tsx. And let me open that up as a vertical slice. All right, so similar to before, basically what we need to do is we need to import the DeSo object. and then we're going to create our functional component, which will be called profile card2, and then that will be equal, oh, I got to add a constant here. So we have our const profile card2, which is equal to an arrow function, and let's see, what do we actually do in this function? Okay, so it looks like we use a use effect. So I'm just going to copy this code over here because it's going to be pretty much the same. And then we're going to need to create a function to get our profile. So get profile is equal to an async function, which takes in a user, which is going to be the public key. And in here, we are going to be making a handful of calls. Let me first just clean up these errors. Okay, that's imported. Public key. Okay, so to add it's complaining about this public key not showing up. We're going to pass in a prop that will have the public key. So in here, public key is equal to a profile card props. And then I'm just going to copy this interface. This is pretty much just the boilerplate code. It's not really relevant to the actual DeSo code. Okay, so now we have our profile card2 boilerplate for the most part set up, and we can actually start working on the DeSo call in the get profile. Inside the get profile, what we first do is we create a variable called profile, which is equal to awaiting our DeSo object, which we're calling the user section of functionality on. And I just realized I didn't create a DeSo const up top. So to handle that, we just implement one up there, just like that. Go back here, replace that with a lowercase t, and now we should have our IntelliSense working. And the method that we actually call would be get single profile. And in here, we basically pass in an object, which will take a public base 58 check, and it takes the user for that. So what we're passing in here is basically the public key for the user that we want to view. So if you recall, this guy over here, this long public key, this is basically my unique identifier on the DeSo blockchain. So when we pass that variable in, what we're going to get is a profile object back. Oh, I guess I don't even need to do that. Yeah, okay. So, and then if you guys are unfamiliar with use effect, all this means is when this component gets rendered, it's going to load it. What exactly are props? Okay, props are basically what you need to pass into a component for it to function properly. So I can actually show you what the prop is right now. When we go back to our app.tsx, where we have our profile card, this right here is a prop. So this is the exact same thing as this, or as this right here. We're basically just saying, hey, from our parent component, we are passing in a string value, and it's going to be called public key in our component. Alrighty, and then I still need to change this to profile card2, and then you'll need to import that up above like I did right here. And once we did that, since we're calling get profile, we should be able to see that we're making a request to get profile in the network log after we log in. So, okay, looks like we have a small error here, not a big deal. Let's see, go to next problem. So basically it's just complaining because we're not returning any HTML. In order to be a React component, you need to return HTML, which makes sense. Alrighty, cool. So if we open up our command our inspection tool and go to the network log. And actually, let me refresh the page here and let me clear that out. I'm going to call login. And once we call login, you can see that after we successfully logged in, our network log made 2 requests here. And I'm going to zoom in here so that you guys can see this better. Alrighty, hopefully you guys can see that better. But first we had the initial call, the pre-flight call, and then we had the actual response. So to break this down a little bit, you can see that we're calling an actual node right here, which is called node.deso.org. And then we're calling the API aspect of it, and we're getting a single profile. And to get that single profile, we're passing in a public base 58 check, which was my public key, which this is telling the DeSo API, go get a profile for this user. And to see what comes back, you can we get this JSON blob in the preview section. And this basically just has a bunch of metadata about my account. So not all these are relevant for our application, but it can tell you anything about the coin, the Ty Fischer coin, which is produced when you make an account. You can see things related to a DAO coin. You can see my description on my profile. This is relevant. And then you can see my username also. So let's go ahead and actually display some of that info on the screen. All right, so it looks like we're making the call, we're storing it to profile, and we're setting profile. So just in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and copy over this code right here, and let me look at the comments. We're looking good so far. And then I'm going to add my imports here. Hopefully add all missing imports will do it for me. Nope. Sometimes importing from the DeSo library doesn't work automatically. So I'm just going to bring in the actual import from the DeSo protocol over here, our DeSo protocol types. So DeSo protocol types, by the way, are basically a static tool to verify that your code is passing in the correct object. It's very similar to like Java, if you want to make sure your object is the object you say it is. So if you wanted to see what this looks like, you can just see that we have a bunch of interfaces with all the different objects for interacting in our blockchain. Alrighty, so now that we got our profile object, let's go ahead and do something with it. So first, in order to render it in the UI, what we need to do is we need to set our profile object to a useState variable. Diamond app is actually just a really cool social media app that's decentralized, and anybody could just use it like Twitter or like Facebook. It's not necessarily like MetaMask, I would say. Alrighty, so let's see here. To actually start displaying data, I'm going to change this to a div over here, and then in here we can say, let's see, profile. Now this is the exact same object that we were dealing with before in the network log. We can print out our description. So we're just going to say description, and then we'll have that there. And then let's also display my username. So username is equal to profile.username. And assuming we did things correctly, if we head over to our application again, if we call log in, we should be able to see my username, which is Ty Fischer. And then I didn't add a break line here, but you can see our description, which says developer advocate at DeSo. And then, my cheesy line to show that I'm helping build out the really cool ecosystem for developers, including you guys. So now that we were able to like grab those items, let's go ahead and also get a profile picture. So if we want to get a profile picture, it's pretty straightforward. We just need to create a variable called profile pic. And then we need to pass in that same public key again. Okay, and this should return a string, I'm pretty sure. Yep. All right, so set profile pic and profile pic. Yes, please, maybe. I think it's complaining that it could be null. So what we can do there is if profile picture does exist, we can set the profile. And this should work unless it doesn't. Let me see what I'm doing in this other code over here. Oh, okay, I see what I was doing here. So the issue was I was saying set profile when I meant to call set profile pic. Okay, cool. Now, what this does is it basically updates our our state to say, hey, we have this string variable over here, and it represents our profile picture. And I can show you guys that in the log in a second here, but let's see. Okay, so I'm actually going to use our profile pic component just in the interest of time here. So this should be as simple as just like importing over this object. So you just need to call it, pass in the public key, and it should work. And then now when we go ahead and go back over to the login page or the main page, you can see right there, you've got my nice little profile picture. It's just me, it's a rounded element. But if we check out our network log, let's see. Yes, okay, here we go. We can find the call that we made by calling the library to get profile pic. And if you want to see what the header looks like, node.deso.org, we're calling the API again. And what it's returning is actually a byte 64 mapping of our image. So this image is actually stored on chain. And it's basically just a really long string. And on DeSo, we do that for profile pictures. But for higher resolution images, we take advantage of using Arweave, which is a decentralized storage platform, or we just store links to normal centralized image servers, which we only do if we think that data is not relevant, and the user can totally choose if they want to upload that to Arweave or if they want to use a centralized solution instead. Alrighty, now that we have our beautiful looking profile information displaying, let's keep adding in some more code here let's see, to get our followers. All right. So let's see here, next part. We're going to go ahead and we're going to first get our followers, which we call await DeSo. Let's see, I think it might be social, yeah. Get follows stateless, and inside of here, we pass in the public key again. So this will be the same thing as what we've been doing. Instead of passing in the actual user, you can also, if you ever just need access to your own user key, you can actually just get it directly from the DeSo object like this. But just to be consistent with our application, which I actually didn't do in the other page, you can pass in the user like that. And then we're going to include an additional variable called get entries following username. So this is basically just telling it to get the people following me. And then to get my following, it's a pretty similar call. It's actually the same method call, get follow stateless, but we are not going to pass in the people following me. Alrighty, so in interest of saving time here, we're just going to reuse our following component. So if we hop back over to our code and then paste in our follower display, see, import please. All right, I gotta go find that import really quick. Oh, that's because I declared it down here. Yep. So we're just going to copy that over. And then I also need to grab this type right here. Maybe. And then I have to add one more import at the very top. Apologies if I'm moving fast here and not explaining everything, but I just want to make sure I'm able to show you all the functionality. Alrighty, let's see here. So now what we need to do is basically grab our following objects, put them in a use state so that the HTML can render correctly. And then our follower information should display. So if we go ahead and we get that following those, hang on. So basically what I did in the other application was I aggregated together the follower stuff. So it should be both the following objects together when we set it. So what we can do here is we can call set followers, and let me just make sure I'm calling this correctly. Yep. So we just pass in followers and following. Let's see. I don't know how to spell, maybe. All right. Oh, okay, I see the issue here. I need to wrap this in an object. All right, why are we using const for something like follow, which is a variable? So general rule of thumb is if you, you almost always want to use const. Const is basically saying we're kind of locking in the type here. So the follower is always just going to be that object, and I don't plan on mutating it at any point. Like the only times that it would actually change is when the component itself gets re-rendered. So I would rather just have the component itself re-render and restart its life cycle than actually have a potential chance of mutating my object, which I'm not trying to mutate. All right. So we also have this error over here, which is basically saying it's possibly null. To account for that, we can basically short circuit it, which basically says if the following info does exist, and display our component. So this component, or this code, will never get reached if our object doesn't exist. Just a kind of cool little shortcut that you can do to save some time. And just like that, that should work. So let's head back over to our wonderful UI. Let me just sneak in a div here so that that starts on a new line. And okay, we got a compile error. Got to import my button. Good. Okay, cool. So just refresh everything from the get-go. If we call the login, we can see my username. We can see my description. You can see my picture. And we also pulled my following and followers. Let me show you the network log for what actually came back when we grabbed that data. Okay, 1 second. So you can see that Our first request was getting my followers. And the main thing that we were pulling from it was just this number right here. And if you look, you can see that, hey, look at that, 358. And then the next call we made, we were just requesting the people I was following. And if you see that, it's 101. So basically, we were able to pretty easily display that information. And then if you want to like see, let's see here. Actually, not sure what that's showing. Yeah, I think this is just more profile information about myself. Yeah. Alrighty. Alrighty. So now, in interest of time, I'm not going to be doing any like UI enhancements here. So I'm just going to do what I did with our header before and go back to the app TSX and then switch our profile card 2 back to 1. So now you guys kind of understand like underneath the hood what I was doing to make this nice profile card, which shows our followers, my description, and everything else. For the next part I want to show you guys is grabbing posts. So if you look here, you can basically see everything that I've been posting. If you read these, I had a hangout yesterday with some devs in our community. Some of these are like my responses to messages, which I didn't filter out for, but I can show you how you get data. Let's see here. Looks amazing. So in short, all the variables you add under display is going to be on the front side that the viewer can view, right? Yeah, so I'm not sure what you mean by display, but basically in any React component, you have a return statement at some point where you basically say, hey, here's the stuff that I want displayed to the users. So our app.tsx is kind of the main outline page. And in our main outline, we have our header, we have our profile card, we have our actions. And if you guys don't know what the actions are, it's just clicking on the hot feed or clicking on the post. And then you also have the feed being displayed at the very bottom, which would be these parts. Alrighty, so let me see what time it is, 9:28. For the next part, I'm going to show you how to actually make a post to the blockchain. I think this part's like pretty cool, honestly. Like I don't know about you guys, but like once you write to a blockchain, you can officially call yourself a blockchain developer, tell all your friends, and they'll think you're really cool, or maybe not. So in the posts.tsx file, we can create a new file called posts2.tsx. And then doing similar to what we did before, we can open up a pane to basically compare our code. I'm going to go ahead and just snag these first few lines of code here. And then we can create our React component, which will be posts2, which is equal to arrow function. And as a parameter, we actually pass in the public key here. And we are saying it's a type of profile post prop. Okay. Autocomplete was getting a little rowdy there. Okay. All right, so now we need to implement the actual get post call. Alrighty, so let me just clear that out actually. All right. Hang on. Oh, is this just displaying a post? Hang on. I might be building the wrong component here. Let me just look at the source code. Oh, all right. I guess I had the logic for it in my profile card this whole time. Tucked away here. Yeah, all right, that makes sense. So we can actually just look to this to do this. This should be fine. Just got to think a little bit here. So we're going to clear out our component really quick, and we're going to continue calling it this. And let's go ahead and build the HTML first, because that's just how my brain wants to do it right now. And then we're going to create a placeholder. I'm just going to snag the one that we had over here, paste it in. And then they're going to say the value is equal to a use state, which will basically allow us to submit this at a later point. And then our onChange event. So onChange is equal to an arrow function. Which we will set our post to, let's see, E. All right, so I may not have been making the most sense while going through this. I was kind of thinking out loud more than anything, so apologies for that. But what we have here now is we set up a text area, and in this text area, we basically hooked it in to a React use state variable, and this use state variable basically will allow us to see what we're typing in on the UI as we're rendering everything. And let's see, this component is called post2. So I'm just going to be lazy here, and we could just toss this anywhere in our application. Main thing is just to see the functionality. And it wanted an attribute, but I don't think we actually need that anymore. So we can just clear that up. Okay, let me just make that a little bit bigger. So for styling, I'm using something called Tailwind, which is a declarative way to do your styling. In other words, I'm pretty lazy and I don't like doing classes very much. So it just allows you to do cool stuff like this, where you get to set a min width or min height. Okay, cool. So now we have our text area, and you can see that me randomly typing in here is populating. There's this really cool message in here. If you guys are following along, you could totally just type this in and submit it when we get to that point, or you could do it down here, and that's already hooked up. But basically, it would send me a message or a post on my wall saying that you guys were using the workshop. So that would just be a cool metric for me to see. Maybe I'll give you a retweet or something too. All right. Anyways, to actually implement this code, let's go ahead and see how I implemented it in my other file. So profile card, text area. All right, cool. So we're also going to create a button. So target value, let me see. So basically, whenever you do any kind of modification to any input, like a text area or like you click a button or whatever, a event gets registered, which basically gets sent over to your callback for the on change or on click or whatever. So we're listening to the on change event of this text area. And whenever that on change event happens, it passes back this event object, which shows up in our callback. And then this has been around since like 1996 or whenever JavaScript's been around. But in order to extract the value from an event, it's located in the event.target.value. So that's just kind of how it's always been. It's not really relevant to React or DeSo or anything. It's just your standard JavaScript. Alrighty, so now my code's complaining. I think it wants me to wrap things up in a single parent element. And then our button text needs a button text. Alrighty, so now we have our button, and basically what we're going to do is if there is a post, we can go ahead and call our DeSo object if we have one. Yeah, okay. So we call DeSo.post, which basically gives us a bunch of functionality related to doing things on post. The one that we want to call is submit post. And when we open that up, we need to pass in a request object. And I'm too lazy to remember all the things that we need for that. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy what's over here, which is this whole object right there. And cool. Alrighty, so to reiterate what we're saying, what we have set up here is we have a text area where we get to type in text. And then basically whenever that changes, it updates our use state post variable. And this is the way that we can easily share data within our component. And then we'll have a button called submit that will basically allow us to call this method right here, which is the DeSo post.submit post. And then I'm just going to await this really quick. Well, I don't know if it's actually necessary to await it. Actually, yes, it is to trigger it. So yeah, okay. And then at the very end, what we will do is we are going to set post to empty string to basically clear it out. So hopefully all this just randomly works, but let's find out. So if we hop back over to our main page, you can see that we have our nice text area that we threw together and our very clean and beautiful submit button. So I'm just going to say, doing the live stream with MLH. And then if we go ahead and we open up our network log, this will be pretty cool, hopefully, if it works. Let me just clear this. So once we hit submit, we should be submitting basically the post that I wrote. And cool. So if you look at this, we called submit post. And then because we were doing a write transaction on the blockchain, we had to call one additional thing, which is called submit transaction. And submitting a transaction needs to be done anytime you basically want to write to the blockchain. Basically, behind the scenes, we're handling your signature on your public key to allow the signature to go through the blockchain. So just to see if everything actually showed up and worked as expected, we can reload our post page, and you can see that I'm doing the live stream with MLH, and I actually already have 1 like going on right now. So that's pretty cool. And just to show you what's really cool about DeSo is your data is shared from application to application. So if I head over to the Diamond app and then go to my profile, you can see that my post exists right here. And somebody already gave me a diamond. So I made a little bit of money off this post just because someone thought it was cool or interesting. And then I got a like from a random guy named Kieran. So thank you. Alrighty, let's see. Hopping back over to the live stream. If it works, cool. Alrighty, so that pretty much covers the functionality for submitting a post. So I'm going to do what we've done in the past here and go back to the app page. Let's get rid of that post altogether. And all right, our page is looking pretty clean here. We're just going to pretend that we totally built this header with all the CSS live and also this profile card. And oh, I'm already up to 2 likes. Nice. Now I'm just going to show you what it's like to basically pull these posts from the blockchain and actually display them. So we'll just create another file here, which I think this is the one that we wanted for. Yeah. All right. Get post TSX. Updating my naming convention over here. All right, let's see. My code is mad at me because it doesn't know this is a function, probably. Yep. All righty. All righty. So we're going to go ahead and just copy over this use effect. Again, use effect is basically just a callback so that when this component gets generated, it will execute whatever code is inside of here. And we're going to call the get post function, which is, again, another arrow function. It's actually going to be async, so let me update that really quick. And then the post object will be equal to DeSo.post.getPost for public key. And then we're going to pass in the public base 58 check, which is just going to be the public key that we're passing in as a prop. And then we're going to say the number to fetch is 40, which you can fetch, I think, as much as you want, or maybe there's a limit on like 1,000 or something like that. I don't really know. All right, so once we get that back, we'll have our post object, and then we should be able to set that to our state. Okay, I need to import that type really quickly. I can find a type. So protocol dash types. Alrighty, we got our type object here, and then finally let's change the default value to null. Yeah, null should be good. Just got to say its initial value is null. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and just call this. Actually, first we need to give a little bit of HTML just so it doesn't complain at us. If I can type. And then we're going to go ahead and add this to the app.tsx. And then inside of here, we're just going to paste it in. And import it. And it needs a public key. All right, so public key is equal to public key. Nice. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open this log up, give the page a good refresh. So it looks like it actually errored, and I think that's because it wants the public key before it makes a call, which makes total sense. All right, so we will try that one more time, clear that out, log in so that we have the public key, and then, and I think this is our call, maybe. Here's our response. They were a little bit out of order. Anyways, so to explain what happened in the code really quickly, we're just calling DeSo post, get post for public key. We're passing in my public key, and we're saying the total post that we want to fetch max would be 40. Yeah, so I can, to answer your question, this section right here is basically just using typing to say that whatever this post value is going to be, is it's going to either be this big object from our API, which looks like this, or it will be null. This operator right here is just saying it will be either this object or this object. And you can see that when we instantiate it, we're starting with null. So we know for a fact the value gets set to null. And then when we get a response from the API, the value becomes the get post or public key response. So I hope that clears things up for you. All right, anyways, to see what actually gets returned from the API, we have this request that we made, which calls the node again. And then in our payload, you can see that we sent over those two parameters. And then the actual response itself looks like this. So there's a whole bunch of them. And let's see. So our 0 index would be the latest one. And you can see that I created a post with the text doing the live stream with MLH. So why don't we go ahead and just grab that single post and display it on screen. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically saying if post exists, I'm using that short circuiting that I was telling you guys about before. What is it complaining about? Element has type any. Yeah, wonderful. We're just gonna. Oh, okay. I think I know what the issue is. Post. Grabbing the first post, and then we're going to grab the body text. And then it probably wants a additional check here, maybe. I'm not going to brute force it. I'm going to actually read the error. It's possibly null. Okay, so that was the issue. So that should take care of that. And then let's just add a little text to let us know what it is. Post I just made. And add a space. Alrighty. Alrighty, so you can see that initial text, but let's go ahead and log in. And then you can see the post that I just made, which it actually looks like it's not showing up. So we're going to have to do a little debugging here. Okay, that's not really a relevant error. No big deal. I think we need to re-render our component when the data changes. This is React specific stuff. So the post object, I don't think got updated when it changed. I don't know why this is complaining. Okay, the real issue was I was not setting this to use state. Let me clean that up, set. I don't know why this autocomplete's kind of being garbage right now, but that's all right. All right, so hopefully that should actually display our data when we go and log in. Yep. Okay, so if you recall, we have this little bit of text right here called the post I just made. I'm going to add a colon here just to clear that up a little bit. Post I just made, doing the live stream with MLH. And yeah, just like that, we're able to grab posts, no problem. I think we're getting kind of short on time here. Yeah, we are. So additionally, you can obviously not only grab my post, but you can grab anybody else's. So you can see that I'm pulling in the hot feed, which is basically some of the more popular posts on the chain from the past 24 hours or something like that. So Diamond Hands, he's actually the CEO of the DeSo Foundation and also my boss. Really cool guy, pretty funny on here sometimes, or just writes pretty cool write-ups about the chain. But yeah, you can see that there's like a really active community who's posting stuff, to the chain every day. So like building apps on here is really cool because you immediately have users, and like if you build a good product, people actually use it, and the friction to get started is really low. Alrighty, so I think I'm going to take a couple of questions, if you guys have any. Otherwise, that should be it. So I'll wait a couple minutes for some questions in the chat to pop up. And yes, I do have 2 beverages from Starbucks going on. So that was introduced in one of the later versions of JavaScript. So every year, JavaScript has a new level of ECMAScript coming out, which basically adds new functionality or features to JavaScript. And this one is called conditional chaining. So basically all it means is, hey, if this object doesn't exist, instead of throwing an error and just crashing the whole entire application, just basically don't throw an error and return an undefined value instead. Anybody else? Let's see. Condition followed by question mark. So I think you're talking about ternaries, which are slightly different. So this is optional chaining, which is what I was talking about. But if you're talking about a ternary, you could basically do something like, if true, then go ahead and pick the first option. And if false, pick the second option. So currently this line of code would return, so it's complaining because it probably thinks this would evaluate to the first option every time. But this line of code would always return the first option. But if the value came out to false, it would always return the second option. Yeah, no, there's a lot going on. You can kind of think about like building on DeSo, like it's not necessarily too hard to grasp, but if you need to understand the building blocks underneath building on DeSo, like running your web server, using React, using cheesy syntax like I do, like you got to learn all those baseline pieces too. Alrighty, well, I think the questions aren't coming in anymore. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who had me on here. I had a lot of fun doing this, and the community in the comment section has been really cool. So thank you guys for being an entertaining crowd. And let's see, why is use effect used? Yep, use effect is basically just when the component gets loaded, execute whatever is in use effect. Alrighty, but so I'm going to stop sharing now. So thank you guys, and I will maybe see you guys another time.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ty, for being here. That was a great session. Remember, y'all, if you want to come and rewatch any of the content that was just recorded, you can visit the MLH Twitch or MLH YouTube channels. Thank you so much for asking some great questions, learning a little bit about JavaScript, learning a lot about DeSo and blockchain development. Thank you once again, Ty, for giving us your time today. And remember, there is going to be a special swag drop, so make sure that you take a screenshot if you win. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and randomly scroll through the comment section here, and basically the more you commented, the higher opportunity you'll have had to win a secret exclusive swag drop. So let me close my eyes here and click, and it looks like Simone Squad, the no code for the actual file, is what I picked. So Simone Squad, you are actually the winner of today's exclusive swag drop. So feel free to go ahead and take a screenshot of this and open up a ticket on the MLH Discord. If you are still here with me, definitely drop something just to confirm in the channel here. Awesome. All right, yeah, so looks like Simone's _squad is still with us. Definitely take a screenshot and let folks know that you are the winner of the exclusive swag drop for the DeSo workshop. All right, folks, it's been real. We've got another one coming right after this one, so be sure to stick around because we've got Jack Biggin doing some awesome Discord bot manipulation and coding on the Twitch channel live. And as always, Jack brings the energy and the hype. So definitely stick around for that. We will be right back with you. All right, folks, take it easy.